It's Julie this time. And Julie is, I'm going to say, the famous Chat GPT lady who came to France. And we're so happy to have you. She came to Uzès because Chat GPT said so.
Yeah. Accidentally locally famous.
Absolutely. And Julie is with French Julie Travel.
Yep.
And I'll give you the details on you. So, in case we get too involved, that we don't do this. But Julie is here to work with other people who are interested in coming to France, to explore France, to enjoy the beauty. And she's setting up and helping to organize slow travel retreats in beautiful places. I think you have several in around Uzès. So we'll talk to you, but Julie, so glad to have you here and tell us more about the Chat GPT thing.
Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to become so popular with French media, but they really sort of jumped on it. But essentially, the backstory is that I'd been dealing with some pretty severe burnout for 2 years, trying to push through it. Major anxiety, having anxiety attacks, depression, chronic fatigue. And I got to the point where I was like, I have to do something different. And so this is even before I quit my job, but I was in Paris last fall thinking, well, normally Paris is my happy place. I used to live in Paris. I've had a Paris food blog, this whole thing, but I wasn't happy. I didn't want to leave the apartment. And it just felt stressful to me. Like the sirens and the motorcycles and just on the metro, everything felt like too much. And so my original plan had been to be in Paris where I have friends, but I found myself in the apartment going, I don't know if I can do it. And so sitting there, I thought, well, why don't I just access the robot that has all the information in the world and just maybe see what I should do. So
ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT. So I basically sat down and I explained my backstory, what I've been dealing with, and said, I'm thinking about going to the south of France to recover in a small town. Is this a good idea, or will it make me feel more isolated? Am I better off staying in Paris, even though it feels overstimulating? But I have friends here.
This,
Yeah.
So there it came up, and then CNN Travel picked it up, and you became world famous.
I definitely want to say that.
Well, certainly Uzès famous, and also along with you and the famous was our friend Prisca, who was sitting at a cafe or in the Place Uzès, and you showed up, or how did that happen? How did that happen?
Well, Julie and I had just met each other, and we happened to be sitting talking, and I got a text from our friends, Shoki and Ben, and Shoki said, hey, we're going to the PMU. Why don't you come and join us? We have someone we want you to meet. And I said, great, because I have someone I'd like you to meet. And so we were all having a convivial evening together. It was a beautiful fall evening. And as we sat there on the boulevard, more and more people stopped to talk with us and pulled up chairs and sat. And by the end, we had, I think within an hour, organically 14, 15 people sitting at this amazing table. And it's just so delightful. And it encapsulated really the joyful experience of slow living. And being available for wonderful synchronicities to happen. And it was just a gorgeous way to get to know people. So that was what they captured for CNN. So it was, wonderful. I think it's a total large part of the story.
Well, Julie, you're a whole lot more than that. And then that story, and I know that you introduce and show to other people is that how we can and we need to appreciate our lives a little bit more and try to slow down if we can. But one thing, aside from that, I don't mean to skip around and I'm sure people can ask more questions. We'll be happy to take more questions about your decision if they'd like to communicate with you, or perhaps on your YouTube channel, you'll be talking about it a bit more. And I, again, encourage you to visit her on French Julie Travels on YouTube. And but I was curious because, and a bit jealous, because you speak French, and that's one of my big problems is that I've been too busy writing and traveling and doing stuff and never have put the emphasis on it that I need to. So and I remember a story that said that you could have chosen to take Spanish because you were living in the south of the United
Yeah.
States. Is that Texas? Was it
Texas, yeah.
Texas? And of course, and I did Spanish because I was in North Carolina, and then here I am in France. But you did French, and obviously, but you said too that you've lived in France before. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that, other than in
Yeah.
addition to your Paris thing, and why you came and went?
Definitely. So yes, it was a decision in 6th grade when I was 11 years old that ultimately changed the course of my life. Not to be dramatic, but it is true. So we had a choice between French and Spanish as our foreign language to pick. And for whatever reason, I loved French. And when I told my mom I was going to take French, she said, "Why would you take French? You're not going to use that. Like, take Spanish. You're in Texas. It's like, take Spanish. You'll actually use Spanish." But I just loved French, and so I took it. And that decision essentially led to down the line when I was in college, at university, and I had to get foreign language credits. Then obviously I did French, and then I did a study abroad trip, and that's when I fell in love with France.
Yeah.
And so I did move to France right after college for a year, did a teaching assistant program with the French government, and then kind of thought, well, I did it. I lived in France. That's my experience. I've done it. But then probably 5 years later, I would go over to Paris to kind of get my fix. But I went on this trip and I was just like, I don't want to just be visiting. I want to be here. So I moved to Paris. I lived there for 5 years and then have just been back and forth coming to France every summer ever since for my maximum allowable 90 days without a visa.
And now
after my visa expired.
Now you're on the road for getting your visa done.
So
that's a whole nother story.
Yes. I have a different visa type now. So yeah.
Well, we've talked about this before. Excuse me. We've talked about this in other part of our series about how important it is for us to plan ahead. Although I didn't necessarily, and you had that. I wish there had been ChatGPT when I was choosing the 13 years ago, but. Prisca, I know this is right down your alley about helping people decide where they're going to go, make sure they're going for the right reasons. And perhaps you'd like to, quiz Julie. We've got her on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I think with what we all have in common is all of us ended up in the same town without a plan to do that. So it can work both ways. It can work both ways, and I think that if you're designing a life on the go, then different things become important. If you're designing in advance, you're using your prefrontal cortex and everything else. When you're moving through life and you're feeling in deeply to what is actually really resonating with you, then instinct becomes paramount. Yeah. So part of the slow living that is such an opportunity is that it gives us a chance to really connect with the information that our brain and our body is giving us and to feel into what is feeling good. And I'm curious, when you did your teaching assistant program, what were the qualities that you found living in Paris that made you want to stay? Like, what was it about it?
Well, I definitely from the study abroad trip is when I really just fell in love. I loved the pace of life from the get-go. The fact that it didn't seem like people took time to have long meals, both lunch and dinner. It's like we knew even as college kids, when we were sitting down around for a lunch, it was going to be several hours, and there was going to be several courses. And that gives you time to just talk and get to know people. So I loved that. The beauty that's everywhere. I mean, there's really just this sense of just awe and wonder everywhere you go, whether it's in Paris, a big city, and the architecture, or whether it's a small town. And you're looking at like cobblestone streets and these beautiful, just so many beautiful views. And of course, the pastries and the cheese, the food in general.
Right, the consumables.
Yes, all the consumables.
Exactly.
So I'm curious, when Paris was no longer feeling right to you, why did the south of France come up into your mind? What initiated that thought?
So I've been traveling in France for over 20 years now. And so I've come to the South quite a bit, all over the South. I've traveled all over France, actually, pretty much every region except for Corsica. That's my last one, Okay. But otherwise, I've been to every other region. And the South has just always been my favorite, specifically Provence and Côte d'Azur, like that entire area. Yeah, and what attracts me to it is just, the weather, the sunshine, I just think makes people happier. It's a much slower pace of life. Every time I would go, for example, from Paris down to go do a trip to Ile sur la Sorgue or, down on the coast, I just felt a palpable difference, in how friendly people were and just how, I don't know, it was just good vibes, And so I just had the feeling that I know that the South, okay, if you're not in a big city, if you're in a smaller town, just has such a much more calm way of being. And the fact that I think my nervous system was just so fried and so sensitive to noise and busyness is when I felt that Paris was too much. But I could still get the joy that I get from France and its beauty and its culture by considering the South and a smaller town.
Yeah, it's so interesting because here, this is a town of 8,000 people. Some people come here, they can't take it. They leave for Nice. There's not enough happening here for them. They need something to drive their experience. And so I do think it's so interesting to hear what you're saying because our instincts will tell us if we give it a chance to tell us, to give us a different option than we might have chosen for ourselves originally. I am interested in hearing a little bit more about why Uzès feels like the place that now that you've been here, decided to settle, and what have you learned about yourself since you started to live in a small town?
Well, I would say that when I first came here, and I know I told you this before, but I said, I'm coming for a year, and the whole point is to come for a year to recover, right? Just to like get myself to calm down.
Come to Uzès for a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, got it.
1
So you
year.
didn't make any permanent.
No, so I got
rented and everything.
I got
Short-term
an
lease.
apartment for exactly a 1 year lease, and that was my plan. And a couple months in, I said it's perfect for what I need for right now, but it's not for me long term for exactly that reason. Because I've always been, I'm a big food lover, so it's like I love cool restaurants and natural wine bars,
Right.
and just
Got that.
access to
lifestyle.
Exactly.
yeah, but access to
The big
just
ones.
different things to
Yeah,
do, and so I thought or I don't know, just making friends. I thought, well, that's going to be hard to do here because it's a smaller town. There's not that many people. And I think what I was really surprised by was actually how much easier it was to make friends here. And granted, that's also part of, I ended up meeting the right people, or the right people reached out to me, who then introduced me to their friends. And then it kind of had the snowball effect. But for me, it wasn't, I don't know if it was much about like learning something about myself as it was that I've never lived in a place that has this sort of village feel. I've just never lived in a small town. So the idea of being able to go to the market and then suddenly you run into, you see someone, you're like, oh, salut, ça va, bisous, bisous. Yes. And then you go have a coffee and then more people walk up.
Right.
I've just, I don't know. I've just never lived anywhere that's like that. I've spent a lot of time, just on my own, and I'm not used to running into people, but in a smaller town, you do have the chance to do that. So that's what started to make it feel more like, my biggest concern was that I wasn't going to be able to have a community or friends here. Like that was actually my biggest concern, that I was going to feel isolated. And so when that started rolling,
Happens to be the opposite now.
yes,
I'm sure. And can I say something about? I think it's interesting for whomever is watching now. Obviously, there's an age difference. You're much older than I am, and so
I'm much older than
you're much older than I am. Both of you are.
Our spirit.
And so I know, and I think some of the things that
she's having more fun.
see what happens when you move to France. Anyway, but this, moving away from a bigger city, moving away from family and friends and stuff, and you may make a decision to go to a place that's got people that are older, and that's been so exciting about being here now, is that the population is changing. There's more and more people who are changing their way of life, their way of making a living, things like that, so they can begin to do the slow travel. But I am so excited about being, with you guys here, because you're making me feel younger too. I even got my hair cut. So
It looks amazing.
Anyway, Prisca, I want you to just, there's so many more questions below this too.
No, I wanted to pick on something you said, which was community. In my experience, I came here for 6 months to write a book and chill out and get over a very stressful work environment, and to just to think about where I wanted to live next. And the thing that captured me, that kind of supported and held me, was this amazing community that just invited one in. I mean, they're so generous and friendly, and to this day, I live in awe of the care that people take of each other and the thoughtfulness.
Is this unique to Uzès? I don't want us to be this sound like we're doing an advertisement for moving here, for heaven's sakes.
I think that's a good
But what do
question.
you think about the French life? Is that sort of
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it is unique to Uzès. I think it's unique to a smaller town,
Okay.
and it's maybe unique to the way of living. I think is very it's the French way of living, i.e., taking the time for a coffee with people after the market instead of just rushing back home to do.
You've traveled a lot in France. You say
Oh,
you've
yeah.
been everywhere but Corsica.
Mhm.
So you're seeing that in your travels.
Oh,
in
yeah.
other small towns
Yeah,
that
it's
you
not
go to.
exactly. It's not just here, and it's
Right.
not just the South either.
Yeah.
I mean, in Brittany and Normandy, it's the same.
Oh, great.
You know,
Uh-huh.
sure, it's colder weather and you don't have as much sun, but when you have smaller communities, it's more about that. I think the combination of taking the time for the French way of living, having long meals, having apéro, having coffees with each
Right.
other, combining that with a smaller town. I think it's actually easier to get to know people.
Yeah.
And I think humans are so curious about each other. We're fascinated by each other, and we're very sensitive to each other also. And I think one of the things I've really learned about, and I've spoken about this before, you have to be a little thoughtful about how you show up when you're in a smaller community, because people are going to absorb it and react to it. Right. So there's the good side of that and the not so good side of that on days that you don't really feel like showing up for other people. But the thing that I've really come to love about it is that we're all tracking each other all the time, whether it's conscious or subconscious, and allowing other people to help me rethink how I might show up. Like, for instance, the clothing shops, the ladies who and the men who run the shops, they're watching you walk by. They're picturing they're taking in your body type. They're picturing what they have on their rack. Like, if you never stop and talk to them, they're not going to be able to share with you that they actually have something that is magnificent for you that you would never have looked at because it didn't think about it, right?
The other day when I bought my new brown jacket, fake fur jacket.
Right.
I just went to that shop. There was the gal. She was like,
She's like, I have something for
I
you.
do.
And it's the same. It's the same with everything.
Yeah.
It's like we get to know each other's taste. We see what people like. And then next time you go into a place or someone has you to their house and they're like, I think you're really going to love this. Right. So it's like, how can we be open enough with each other? And that's the invitation and beauty of a small town is, you're seeing a different facet of somebody every time you see them. And it's naturally building a relationship. If we don't fight it, if we allow it to happen and think of everyone as just the friend that we haven't met yet, it's extraordinary how things open up and people open up. And so slow living, again, is the real secret to this, because you have to slow down enough to realize that all these people are around you and they're all attentive and they all have something to share and we all have something to share with each other. So
I'm going to bring something back to another question, though, because I think that I get a lot of questions from people that read French Footsteps newsletter and also Barefoot blogger and stuff, but asking me where should I go? What part of France should I go? I'm going to take advantage of the fact, again, that you say you've been to a lot. And also for you about helping people plan about, you said you love the south of France because you've traveled a lot around. What about for people who haven't traveled around France and want very much to come here and are trying to say, gee, I'd love to be in the south, but it's really hot. I even heard somebody say, I can't come because of the Mistral.
Yeah.
So how would you advise or help people to make a decision about where you're going?
Well, yeah, for me, it's more on the side of I've been in the tourism industry for 15 years. And now I do my own thing. And so part of that is advising people on giving them kind of bespoke travel planning. So for me, it's on trips, vacations, right? Whereas for you, you're advising people, I think, on making decisions about where to live.
Right.
But I think it's similar in some ways, because what you have to do is find out what's important to them.
Yeah.
What kind of, are they more mountains or are they beach? I know so many people who are like laying on a beach all day is a nightmare to them. in the heat. Me, I'm like, put me on a chair. I will just sit there for 10 hours and love every second of it, getting in the water, getting out, having a drink, having a bite. I love it. But some people aren't like that.
Right.
So it's like, are you a beach person or are you a mountain person?
Yeah.
Do you love kind of cold weather or crisp, cool versus, you don't want to be sweating when it does turn so hot in the summer. So I think it's kind of climate. It's what do you enjoy doing? Like outdoors, do you want nature? How much culture and like access to museums or theater or things like this do you want? All of the different things about what's important to people and what they enjoy. Do you like going to markets? Do you like going to brocantes?
Right.
Do you like being by the sea?
Yeah.
Do you like things packaged and ready for you at the supermarket?
Right.
And
Yes.
because that's not where you want to put your energy. Like, because you want to do something else with that time.
I really don't. I mean, I'm thinking now that, I came 13 years ago. I was a different age. I just divorced. I just, retired, and I was in a different place. I just wanted out and somewhere fun, different to go. But there are a lot of people that really are looking for advice about how to do that. How would your Francis Calling, for example, some of your things, the surveys that you might do with somebody or chats that you might be in with them to help them decide, maybe they can do a little bit of, thinking about how do I make a decision? I know that I did a post for French Footsteps that actually suggested that you might look at it. And again, this American audience I'm speaking to mostly, you might consider where is it that you're living now in the United States, and are you happy with that, or do you want something to change?
Right.
So
what are the qualities of that place?
What do you think about that?
Yeah. So I do have a quiz people. Well, it's a questionnaire people can take that helps to really kind of narrow down the qualities of the life that you want. But what I like to stress with people or work with them around is like we know the lives that we've had that have suited us well. So there's so much important information to take from that. There's also the life that you want next. And I think one of the things that we see here is people they try to recreate something, but of course it's going to be very different here. And in a way, it doesn't offer them an opportunity to really dive deep into like what else could their life be that might suit them better in the next phase of their life. Yeah. And I think that's been one of the great joys for me is being able to soften into a different kind of a life because I've actually chosen an environment now that's very different to the one that I came from.
Yes.
It's a beautiful invitation when you're moving to really do a major life redesign and to allow different elements of yourself and your life. For me, it was a search for creativity. And because I felt like even though I was an architect and I worked in that world, I had lost that as a business owner and everything. And when I decided to come to the south of France, it was because an earlier journey to France, I'd come to the Ardèche with my best friend. And I had this moment on a terrace where I remember thinking, wow, I've always thought I would move to Italy, where I was born and I love. This has all the qualities of Italy. It has the best qualities of Italy many of the good qualities of Italy that I love. Yeah. But it's in a very different, very gentle environment. And I just stored that away for years. So when the moment came and I was ready to make a move in my life, I suddenly thought, that is the quality that I'm looking for. So it was natural to come here. I didn't know that I would stay here, but it's really understanding the qualities that's going to support you in the life that you want to live.
Yeah. And I think, if the fact that you might go back home, the fact that you might move here, decide maybe it's not the right place, not the right time. How did you feel about coming back? I mean, internally, I guess, did you feel like, oh, I made a mistake last time? How do I make that different? Or do you say, oh, I just still love France? That looks like that might be the answer.
Yeah, it's that one. No, the reason that I left Paris wasn't because a lot of people say, I don't know, you get things are difficult. Things are difficult here.
Yeah. In Paris.
Not convenient, not easy, but just period. Yeah.
Name those.
And
what's difficult?
Well, gosh, I mean, administration. It's just like everything takes ages. You need, 20 copies of all these different things. And then you walk in and it's like, actually, there's one secret other item that they didn't tell you about that you have to have. And you had to get that appointment 6 months ago. Right. And it's impossible to get another appointment. it's just like you can't, when it comes to administrative stuff, there's that. And also just, if you want to make a return, it's just not a thing here.
It's not a thing.
You can't just, it's not like Target. You walk up, you're like, here it is.
No.
Here's my card. Boom, done. No,
You better
it's
like
like,
it.
yeah, exactly. You better like it. Exactly.
Yeah.
I one time tried to
Or
return.
it's got to have a rip in it or something.
Or you just
But
decide
don't
you're
wanna-
supporting the local economy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. I one time, when I was living in Antibes, I had gotten a jar of, so American of me, but it's actually because I cook Asian a lot, but
Okay.
peanut butter.
Okay, there we go.
And so I got a jar of peanut butter, and it was the Monoprix brand peanut butter. I got home and it was already open, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'll take it back and swap it out."
Yeah.
The cashier, got in a full-on fight with me because she was just like, "Well, obviously in French, but she's like, well, how do we know that you got it here?" I'm like, "It's the Monoprix brand."
How do we know you didn't open it?
Yeah, I'm like, look, all I want, and then, so yeah, I mean, she was upset and like
It's
yelling
not-
at me
not-
like
not
about
she's used to that.
Mr.
right?
Papa.
She felt accused.
Yeah.
It's like it's as if she owned Monoprix and had to defend them, But then a manager came over. We went to the side, and I was just like, I just want to swap out for a jar that's not open. And she was like, oh. I was like, thank you. But the point is, then I was like all burned up.
Loyalty to the brand too. that
It's
she-
just
that-
it's just sometimes a little thing like that you feel like should be easy.
Exactly.
Ends up being like an altercation
Yeah,
where someone's
right.
mean to you or angry, and
And
it's
that's
just
enough to ruin your day.
Yeah,
and
it
to
just-
say maybe this isn't the right place, and
yeah.
you know what
And heaven forbid you don't speak French. I mean, that would be really difficult.
Thank
I'm doing the whole
you.
thing in French.
no, it's better if you don't speak French.
Oh, is that right? Oh, that's true, because it puts them on the lower foot of
They
having
have
to.
They have nothing to say about if you don't speak it. Je ne
true.
sais pas.
That's true, actually,
Yeah.
possibly, but yeah. So even just, or I don't know. It's like the other day I was cooking and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out of garlic, but I couldn't go run to get garlic from the grocery store because it was Sunday and it closed at 1 p.m. It's just things like that that are
Mr. Givier, yeah.
just
Yeah.
Those are just a few examples. There's a lot of things that are difficult, but no, the reason I left Paris was actually because it was very difficult to make French friends in Paris. A lot of times French people, they make friends in the school they grew up in,
Right.
and then again in college, university, and then once they have kids and they do kind of parents.
Right.
Like those are the 3 stages they tend to make friends, and so
Right.
it's very difficult to break into a French circle
Yeah.
unless you're dating someone and they bring you in.
Right.
And my friendships are very important to me, and I felt that I was going through friendship after friendship after friendship because they would come for 3 years and then move back to the
Right.
US.
Right.
I ended up making friends with expats is the point, because they also were looking for friends.
Exactly.
They were available.
They were available,
Yeah.
and honestly, just French people they have their circle.
They
They're
didn't-
good.
yeah,
I
right.
have one French friend who was absolutely lovely who welcomed me in, but yeah, I wanted to grow roots with friends and not constantly be starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
So that's actually the reason why I left Paris. Had nothing to do, because I still loved France. That was really difficult, but
Yeah.
that's why I went back to the US.
Yeah, and understand that when you go into some smaller villages and stuff, that it is a lot easier to make friends with French. I mean, you do definitely have to be almost fluent in French to be able to do that, but so many people feel like they're so part of the community. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a different way to have to approach. And again, that's so important about planning, because to know that, do you have a proficiency in French? Do you, does this strange kind of way of them being the way of getting things done that are so different from us, how much is that going to bother you?
Yeah.
And is there a place that still, because you love France and love the beauty of it and everything that it stands for, is that going to keep you away? And that, again, Prisca, I feel like you're just such a valuable tool for somebody wanting to move, to be able to answer some of those questions, before they take because it's expensive. It's expensive, and it's your life. I mean, it's time wasted, and
It's expensive
things
to
like-
get it wrong because it
exactly.
takes some years before typically people decide that they are
Exactly.
not in the right place and
Exactly.
they've already put time into friendships that maybe didn't
Exactly.
take off or did, and then it's a huge financial burden also to have to resell and rebuy. And I think what's really fun And I love the phrase life redesign, but I love the idea that when we are going into a new community, it's like, what do we want people to know about us? How are we going to place
Oh,
ourselves
that was a good one.
in a way
Yeah.
that the right people will find us, that we're going to come into contact with people that we actually have things in common, because it doesn't matter what nationality somebody is. Humans are humans. The way that we choose to interact is we decide if we like somebody it's almost instantaneously, right? So how are we going to promote ourselves in a way that's going to attract the kind of people that we want to be friends with,
Right.
regardless of the community? And then how do we attract them to us?
Right.
And so that's for me, that's planning, because sometimes we have to do the research to find whether it's drawing classes or to start teaching at a language school, or to volunteer, or to be a part in a chorus, whatever it is, or to start making something and selling it at the market,
Or to sell a book, or to write a book.
or to write a
Or write a
book,
book.
and then to tell your
Yeah,
story in a
yeah.
way that then people can find you. And one of the things I love about your story is because you're sharing your story on YouTube, that started putting roots down for you almost immediately, because
Yeah.
people found you, and
Yep.
then they reached out to you, and
Yeah.
they welcome you. You were saying even today that you're still getting emails welcoming you to France,
Yeah.
by French people.
And I'm still getting contacted on Instagram from people who are like, I live in Uzès. Let's meet up. Let's get a coffee. I have 3 different women who reached out to me who say they live in Uzès and
Yeah.
let's meet up. I'd love to meet up.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
It's
Right.
when you talk about kind of attracting, I feel like
Be the honey.
it feels it's just I mean,
Yeah.
granted, I know the sequence of events that happened is a bit, but I feel very much confirmed, when it's like all these doors are opening and people are wanting to meet up, and it's lovely.
Well, I think that we're probably ready to say our adieus for this conversation, and I really appreciate your being here. But I think that one of the things that really came out to me is for people that are watching is that you need to plan ahead, and that you need to spend some time exploring. You really do. And I'm going to put a plug in for you, because I think, the retreats that you're doing, bring a friend, bring friends, come and do a retreat. Julie will go anywhere. I mean, you've got people with chateaus and multi housing villas and stuff like that. And
I got friends with chateaus.
you have friends with chateaus.
That's just very much. That's just France life,
I thought that was that, but I haven't met those.
I've been looking for them.
That's why I'm hanging out with you, is I know you know chateaus and people with chateaus.
I just want to reinforce something you just said, which I think is so important. And I think a lot of people don't think about this. A lot of us who decide to make a move in our life, it's almost like a secret that we're keeping, because we want to protect it. We want to protect our right and our dream, right?
Yeah.
But actually, something like coming to a retreat with your family members or your friends, they see the place that you're dreaming of.
Yeah.
They can picture you there. They see how you shift and how you become a different person when you're there, and then they want that for you. It creates a completely different dynamic with your best friends or your boss or the people around you, where they become part of your story, and then they become your supporters.
Yeah.
And then it's something that you're doing together. You're not leaving people behind.
And
so
maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that with you. Maybe we'll invite people that are watching this, other people that are, reading and interested in French footsteps and all of the planning and guides. Maybe we'll do a retreat or something and have Prisca come and do some sessions. And Julie's got chateaus right here.
Chateaus,
and she knows the people that own the chateaus, which is why I'm going.
I got chateaus all over.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to being longtime friends with you and doing a lot of fun things together. So, this is my right hand right now. We're working on French footsteps, and Francis calling, having a lot of fun, believe it or not. This is our scene right now, but we'll be expanding this world and doing more open chats where you will have Zoom calls. We're taking it on the road. So we're going to turn stories to chats. So here we are. Thank you so much. And stay tuned.
And live your dream.
Yes.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.